Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey Hearties, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host Nicole, joined once again by my lovely co-host Theresa from the Heartie Observer to talk about When Calls the Heart, Season 10, Episode 9, Deep Water. It was written by Lindsay Sturman and directed by Siobhan Devine. Everyone helps Rosemary as the governor visits early. Meanwhile, Nathan is called away to help with land trouble, only to find himself in unexpected danger and with surprising intel. This was a great episode, one of the best of the season. What do you think, Theresa?
I definitely liked it. Lots of raw emotion in this one.
Yeah.
I might be a weird anomaly of a Heartie because my favorite episodes in When Calls the Heart are always the emotionally charged, super sad, like melodramatic ones. Those are always my favorite. So obviously this one really worked for me. I still have last week's episode slightly ranked above.
Yeah.
But this one, it brought in some really intense, emotions that we haven't seen in years. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Going back to my top 10 before season 10 episode, you were saying how most of your favorite episodes are the emotionally charged episodes with action, and it's the same for me because a lot of my top 10 are the really emotional ones, like Rosaline and the Mine,
Yes.
the
Yes.
landslide episode. Yep.
Oh yeah. Like I say this all the time to people. My 3 favorite episodes are probably the most emotional and
My
sad
heart will
of the
go on.
series. I like series 3 finale, the landslide, the episode where Jack leaves for the Northern Territories.
Yep, my heart
Like
will go
that
on.
one to me is like top tier. And then
Yep.
of course the season 5 finale, which
Yeah.
I know some people can't even watch that, and I totally understand. But for me, that's one of my favorites because it's just so
Yeah.
phenomenal. So
I
yeah.
was going through scenes of that episode last night and I was falling.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
even episode 9, like I watched that last night too. I couldn't even watch the end. I had to skip to the credits. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so intense. Yeah. And I get it. The only episode of When Calls the Heart to ever make me cry is the season 5 finale. That's the only one. Although maybe season 10 will make me cry as well. You never know.
But with the opposite.
Emotion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the word I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I think it will. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, let's get to Hope Valley season 10. And why don't we just start on a happy note with Mike and May? Their one scene in the cafe. That was very cute.
Yes. It was cute. And you could kind of see like he gave her confidence to,
Yes.
in her voice, but at the same time I think he also like just like kind of opened a door for her, and now they're just kind of in sync. They're singing together, they're harmonizing, they're just like they're making eye contact across the room, and they're just adorable. They're so cute.
They are.
And yeah, I just think they're gonna be like hopefully it'll move in that direction because they're super cute together,
I
and I
agree.
love it.
I love how Elizabeth and Rosemary come in and Elizabeth says, they sound pretty good. Rosemary, you know what I always say? Nothing brings people out of their shells better than poor pitch.
Oh my gosh, Rosemary.
And of course,
Way to
ever.
way to turn a compliment into an insult.
Yep. And of course,
Oh
Mike and
my
May
gosh.
overhear that. You can see by the look on their face
Mhm.
that they heard what she just said.
Yeah.
And then it,
You can't really tell if they're more perturbed about the fact that she's like onto them or if they have bad pitch. You can't really tell, but
no,
either prospect is a scary prospect.
yeah.
So yeah.
And then it cuts to Faith, Fiona, and Molly, along with Minnie, and they were totally matchmaking.
Oh yeah. And
And
see, Faith has been matchmaking the two of them for, a
yeah,
few episodes now, and I think it's working. I think Faith is I mean,
yeah,
Fiona is a good matchmaker here. She sees something between them.
yeah,
And, Faith is kind of along with it. Minnie's a little more hesitant because I
yeah.
don't think she wants to force anything.
What
But
were your
I think
thoughts?
Fiona's not wrong. She's definitely seeing something.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on Minnie's comment when she says that they should just stay out of it and follows up with, I love love as much as the next person, but this might not be the way to do it.
Yeah. So I think a perfect example of what not to do is, it's happened before on the show where Lee and Rosemary hosted a dinner party for Faith and Carson and kind of
Oh, that's
ambushed
right.
them
I remember
with,
that.
with the fact that it was just the two of them. And that is not going to make anything
No.
happen. Just like it didn't make anything happen for Carson and Faith. It just caused Carson to dig himself into a deeper hole, and it slowed the process. So I would say Minnie's correct in this sense where you
Yeah.
don't want to push too hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did have a door opened for them with putting them in a duet together. So I
Yeah.
think at least
Yeah.
they're moving in the right direction.
Yes. Agreed. Let's go on talking about Lucas and Elizabeth and the wedding planning, which does not seem to be going too well still, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going based off of, I don't even know, like, it's just for the wedding being 6 weeks away, which we find out in the
In her journal.
journal entry.
Yeah.
Yeah. In finding that out, there's really not a lot of enthusiasm or,
Mhm.
excitement or even, urgency. There should be, but there just isn't, at least on Elizabeth's part. In
Yeah.
fact, it feels like a lot of the planning is being done by Rosemary and Lucas,
Yeah.
and Elizabeth's not really
Mhm.
part of that. And to me, that's very
Concerning.
unusual and kind of concerning. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not making any predictions, but I did find it interesting what Elizabeth says at the end of her journal entry with there's something I can't quite shake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we do know that when you listen to the full context of her journal entry, yes, she is talking about Montague, but keep in mind that before saying that, she was talking about wedding planning.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, there's something I can't shake. That seems to be very much a theme of this episode for Elizabeth specifically, and Lucas. But it's very interesting wording and very interesting to have it follow up the talk about wedding planning to
Yeah.
me. And that's all I'm going to say because I'm not going to make any predictions,
Yeah.
but interesting choice of words there.
Elizabeth and Rosemary in the cafe talking about the wedding dress being en route to Hope Valley. And again, Elizabeth is not really enthusiastic at all. And Rosemary picks up on that. and then
Mm-hmm.
asks about the cake tasting, which is supposed to be the following night. But then we find out in the next scene with Lucas and Elizabeth that it is being postponed due to the governor's arrival.
Yeah. I think you can see that Rosemary's starting to pick up on some hesitancy with Elizabeth. I don't think it's fully in her view yet. I think she just thinks that the whole situation in town is overwhelming Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
But Elizabeth is very much like not prioritizing the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is not even personally involved in the whole Montague thing, as far as she knows at this point.
Yeah.
And she's putting that and the governor coming above her wedding. That's not normal. And then
Yeah.
the fact that she talks about this with Lucas and asks him to postpone the tasting, he seems a little annoyed, but even that she doesn't really seem to pick up on that he's annoyed.
Yeah. And even when she and Rosemary are in town and they're talking to Lucas and Lee, and Joseph might have been there too, about the bandstand and the wedding arch. And, she was just like, oh, well, it's okay. We can make another one.
Yeah.
Which I thought
I
was interesting.
I know. I really really don't want to like, I don't want to freak anyone out and say, "Oh, yeah, this isn't going to work." But right now it doesn't feel like Elizabeth is into this wedding. It doesn't. It doesn't feel like it. And it's not even like an active like hesitancy or like an active like procrastination. This is just her not prioritizing it, basically. The governor's coming. They need like an archway support. She offers their wedding arch. And
Mm-hmm.
Rosemary's even shocked by that. Rosemary is the one who has to tell Elizabeth,
No.
no, don't offer your wedding arch. And this is Rosemary who had her wedding and had to give up a lot of the stuff because the
Yes.
community was in crisis. This is not that level of crisis.
Yeah.
That level of crisis was people like on their deathbed, starving to death, freezing to death. It needed to happen. This is just
Entered.
the governor's coming. This is a decorative piece that we might need. So it's very different. And Rosemary has to remind Elizabeth of that. And that's, I don't know. I don't know. I think something's brewing there with Elizabeth that I just don't think she's into this wedding.
No. And if you compare it to season 5, planning her wedding to Jack,
Mm-hmm.
completely different because she was all in
Yeah.
wedding.
Yes. And even if she wasn't like all in the sense that she was like a bridezilla and like running
Yeah.
everything, yes, Rosemary was still running everything, but she was like showing up to the wedding dress fitting. She was at the bachelorette party. Jack was at the bachelor party. They were going to elope because they were just overwhelmed, but
With the
decided not
flowers and
to. Yes, yes. And then they decided not to because the
Philip
community was,
ran away.
yeah. And Philip ran away and they decided that they wanted to
Include
still
them.
go through with it. And, the day of the wedding happened and Elizabeth is devastated when the church burns
And
and
her
her
wedding dress.
dress is destroyed. Yeah, she's devastated. It's not like maybe she's not as enthusiastic about wedding planning as Rosemary, but she was way more enthusiastic about her wedding with Jack than she is with her wedding with Lucas right now.
We will see how it all pans out. I'm interested to find out.
Yeah. I will say I am going to make one little prediction and say that I don't think we're going to have a wedding this year.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, cuz it just doesn't feel like it. We've seen no evidence of a wedding. We we know that Elizabeth's family is not going to return this season, as in
Yeah,
Julie and Aunt Agatha. We
because they
know they're
were.
not going to return. Yes, because they were earlier in the season. And I don't think there's going to be a wedding this year. And I don't think that even an elopement is in the cards, because that would mean that Lucas was giving up his huge wedding that he had been hoping for, because he told her back in episode 2, I believe, that he didn't want to elope. He wanted to have a big wedding. So for her to elope, that would be just another thing that Lucas has to give up to keep the relationship from, you know,
Yeah.
not going the way it needs to go. So I just don't think even an elopement is an option at this point.
With everything else going on with Montague and the land and water situation and the governor, and we know from promos for episodes 11 and 12 there's an election that Lucas will probably be running in. So I just don't see a wedding happening this season.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to all the Team Lucas fans listening out there. This is not an attack on them as a couple or anything. I'm just saying I don't think a wedding's happening this year.
It would just be too much.
Yeah.
And in Lucas and Elizabeth's defense, it would not be fair for them to have a wedding and there be no promotion. You know what I'm saying? Because every other main couple has gotten promotion for their wedding. Lee and Rosemary, Jack and Elizabeth, Clara and Jesse, Florence and Ned. It just wouldn't be fair to them.
Exactly. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense, because, you know, like Elizabeth and Lucas's engagement was very small and very low key. But yes, everyone knew it was going to happen. We got glimpses of it in the promo, and you know, we all kind of got a sense that it was going to happen. We all got the box that didn't have the ring in it, but it had earrings, so you knew the engagement was going to happen at some point in the season. There's no indication at this point that the wedding is actually going to happen, other than they've sent out the invitations and some of the things have been prepared. Other than that, there's nothing to lead me to believe that there is actually going to be a wedding this season, because we have some major storylines coming up this season and not a lot of time to tell those storylines. And I really think Lucas and Elizabeth as a couple, if they're going to make it all the way, they deserve more than like a 2-minute elopement wedding, like stuck on the back half of an episode somewhere. Like they deserve way better than that, if that's what they're getting. So
some big storylines, and one of them is basically saving Hope Valley, which that all started with this episode.
Yes.
With Montague and the land and water. Why don't we just talk about that? Some big moments with this story.
Yes, lots of action happening in this episode. Lots of revelations happening. I like how the whole Montague storyline, and how Union City Holdings, which is the company that he's working for, and how they're stealing the water from places like Rock Creek and Eagle Creek, as we find out later. None of it was surprising to me, but the reason why it's not surprising is because the writers have done such a good job of setting this up. Like we could see it coming, but at the same time, it wasn't like, you know, it was subtle enough where if you were paying attention, you'd be able to know that this is where it was going. And they've done a good job setting this up, because it wasn't shocking to anyone, but at the same time, it's shocking to the characters.
Yes. And speaking of a character with that reaction, Bill, Nathan and Elizabeth are in his office, and they're talking about telling him about Madeline. They're not sure that they should do it, but who comes in right when Nathan says, "What do I know about matters of the heart?" But he deserves to know. And they end up telling him.
Yeah. I mean,
Poor Bill.
yeah, poor Bill. It's a hard situation. I think that he's handling it very well. Like he's not you can tell he's like a little bit kerfuffled by the whole thing. It's just not ideal, and he didn't like to get scammed and everything. But at the same time, he's not like openly angry at Madeline or anyone for that matter. He's just suspicious. And I think that comes with his own personal experience where, he dated Abigail for a little while, and then his ex-wife decided to show up and mess a bunch of things up. And she told Abigail a bunch of lies.
Yes.
And told other people lies about Abigail. So I think that Bill is being very cautious. Oh my gosh, Nora. Yeah. Nora. But yeah, Bill is being very cautious, I think, because he knows better than anyone that there's always more to the story, I think, than just, oh, Madeline has a fiance and that's that. Like, it's way more than that. There's definitely something going on. So
this part did kind of make me laugh when Bill is saying, if we don't confront him, then he won't know we suspect him. And then he gets up from his desk, and I think Nathan and Elizabeth are trying to tell him not to go, but he goes anyway. And he says, "Don't worry, they won't see me."
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess if he's going in the middle of the night, maybe they won't. But I'm convinced that there was a scene where it actually did show him going at night to see what was going on, but I believe it got cut. I remember specifically seeing when season 10 was being shot, there was a shot that someone took and shared on their Instagram story of a night scene. And I was pretty sure I saw Jack Wagner in that scene. And it was out on the road. So I'm pretty sure they did have a scene, but I'm pretty sure it got cut.
Who posted it? I might have
I
seen
feel
it.
like it might have been Siobhan Devine.
It could have.
Which
Maybe
would
I'll
make sense. Yeah. Which would
put
make
it
sense.
on
So,
her page.
yeah. So that's my theory. Because I was a little confused why we didn't actually see Bill go and do the thing, but I think that's why.
Yeah. This brief moment with Nathan and Elizabeth also kind of made me laugh. She is running somewhere in town. She's kind of in a hurry, and Nathan is right outside the mercantile. And I think he even says, "You're in a hurry." And, she's just kind of like moving back and forth. And he's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." "Why?" You seem a bit shifty."
As she's like literally physically like shifting back and forth. Yes.
Like, "Nope, I'm good."
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ned comes out with a telegram for him, and he gives Elizabeth a package, which we will talk about in a minute. But Nathan says, "Did you read this?" Ned, "I always do."
Oh my gosh. I mean, Ned is the telegram operator, so of course he's going to have to read it.
Yeah.
But I did think it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I also thought it was funny when the telegram was coming through and he was like, "Florence, Florence." And she's Harry at the moment. And she's just like, "Oh,
Yes.
for heaven's sake." And Harry's just like,
Oh
"What is
my
going on?"
gosh. I love how with Florence and
Avatars.
Ned, I love how with Florence and Ned, the crazy news is not that there's a standoff in Rock Creek. it's actually that the governor is coming because they freak out way more for that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the governor in a little while because that's a big
Mhm.
storyline too.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of the governor, we will get more into this later, but Bill and Elizabeth have a talk at the hotel, and he credits knowing that the governor is coming to his mounty investigative skills. And then they go on talking about his land and that it's not a well they're digging for. It's a trench connected to the creek with a stop gate to control the flow. Bill says, why is he lying about it? And he's referring to Montague, who is sitting almost just behind him and Elizabeth at a table.
Yes. Yes. I think it's always fun to see Elizabeth and
No.
Bill kind of put their heads together to, do some investigative work because we don't often see them as like a duo that often, but it is always fun when it's them.
Yes. Going back to the book we mentioned, Elizabeth gives it to Bill. It is Sedimentary Rocks and Minerals. And that is the same one that she checked out for little Jack last season, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. It's another thing that like it's in a way it is kind of tied to Lucas and Elizabeth's proposal
Yes.
in a way because of the way Lucas proposed with
Mhm.
little Jack picking up rocks and everything. But what interested me was how little fanfare that callback had. It
Mm-hmm.
was just very like, oh, here's the same book, but no one like pointed out, oh, that's the same book that,
Yeah.
was had to do with our proposal type
Yes.
thing.
In this
Yeah.
moment, she's talking about Jamie, who checked it out from the library, but he sent it back in the mail along with a note saying how much he enjoyed his time in Hope Valley.
Hmm.
Kind of wish Jamie didn't have to leave because I liked Jamie.
Yeah, I liked Jamie too. I was sad. I'm hoping he comes back. I hope that's
Yes.
not the end of Jamie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, no, don't let Jamie go.
Yes. During the conversation with Bill and Elizabeth, Mike overhears and he chimes in and he's saying how Montague has been asking him if he's heard from Madeline. Mike also heard Montague on the phone asking about Madeline's whereabouts to multiple callers and about searching her room.
Hmm.
That's very
If
interesting.
I were Bill, I would be very suspicious now.
Yeah.
Very suspicious because sure, this guy might be her fiance in quotation marks, but if her fiance does not know where she is, that's not normal. It's not
No,
normal at all. Yeah.
part of me is going back to our theory we had earlier on in the season about Madeline not really being responsible for all this. She's in trouble. Like she's trying to get out of it.
Mhm. Yes. I think that's a very strong possibility. I
Yeah.
think she could definitely be in trouble. Probably has some debts from her husband, who we heard was not a great person.
Mm-mm.
Um, also, she's been very evasive with Jamie about
Yeah.
everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And that tells me that yes, she's probably in trouble, probably doesn't want to involve Jamie, is probably indebted to Montague somehow, but is not his fiance, I would
No.
say. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, the plot thickens.
Yes. And then we get some action with Nathan going to the cabin to check things out in Rock Creek. And those stinky old Pinkertons are there.
It's always the Pinkertons. And I love how, like, one really consistent thing with Nathan's character is how much he hates Pinkertons. I don't think even Jack hated Pinkertons this much, but every time Nathan sees a Pinkerton, he's like, here we
Even
go.
Bill.
Yeah. Bill, yeah, even Bill doesn't have the same, like, I'm pretty sure Nathan has had some pretty bad experiences with Pinkertons. We can
Yeah.
kind of see why.
Cough, cough. Spurlock, the other one.
Yes. Yes. I mean, he's had a run of bad luck with the Pinkertons. So it's no surprise when he shows up, he sees the Pinkertons and he's just like, oh no, here we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that Nathan switched places with the hostage. That was very brave of him.
Yes. And it's funny because before this episode aired, I had a suspicion that that was how it was going to play out, that Nathan was going to switch places with the hostage, whoever the hostage was, as opposed to him just being the hostage. I had a feeling he was going to switch places. And I know that, like, some people may not understand why he did it, but the truth is he did it because he is trained and a trained officer of the law, and he knows how to interrogate people, how to de-escalate a situation, and his main job is to keep people safe. Unlike the Pinkertons, who that's not really their job. Their job is to do what they're paid to do. And yeah, I think he did the right thing for everyone involved to protect everybody, which is, to put himself in that place because he's the most equipped in that group to be able to handle it.
Yeah. The man that is taking Nathan hostage, briefly, I might add, because it didn't last very long. His name is Clifford Stuckey. He tells Nathan what is going on and how Montague and Union City Holdings bought his land.
Yeah.
And
as soon as he mentions Montague, Nathan's like, the light bulb goes on.
Everything.
Yeah. Because this is the first time anyone's heard anything about Montague that's, written physical evidence. It's not just like little clues here and there, like, oh, Madeline's missing, he's calling other people. Jamie, he doesn't know anything about Jamie. This is real physical evidence of what Montague is doing. And Nathan zones in on it and immediately knows that he has to find out everything he can about it, because he's also aware of the situation in Eagle Creek. Currently, Rock Creek is going through a similar decline, and he knows that Montague is involved with Hope Valley. So triple threat there on 3 towns. So
Can we just talk about that moment when Bill shows up at the cabin and he knocks the Pinkerton out? It's like, yes.
Oh my gosh. That was like the most like Bill thing to do ever. Literally, I almost felt like I was like watching like season 4 or season 5 all over again, with like Bill and AJ and the people like going after he and AJ in the woods, and Bill just like takes out the gun and goes boom, 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 or is knocking people out. It's like, it's so Bill. And so when he did that, I wasn't shocked at all. I'm like, oh yeah, of course he just rode up. Nobody saw him. Just rode up, knocked the guy out, walks right in. It was hilarious. Yeah.
I do wish we had gotten a little bit more action, but I thought what we did get was great.
Yeah, I thought it was good too, and like you, I could have used a bit more. It was a little bit anticlimactic for me.
Yeah.
I think the reason why it felt anticlimactic was because Nathan had it under control.
Yes.
And maybe that's why it felt a little less like it was very contained
Yeah.
compared to what happened in the season 7 finale with Jenny was holding everyone hostage with the prisoner transfer. That was not
No.
like that was not contained.
I
That was
remember I
not
was like,
oh yeah. Like people died. It was bad. And I'm not saying that's Nathan's fault,
no.
but that it was a rookie Mountie's fault, and that's why it all went to the proverbial hell in a handbasket. But in this time, Nathan had it very, very under control, which is probably why it felt anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And regarding gunshots, Bill, Nathan, and Clifford hear some on the way out as they're going back to Hope Valley.
Yes.
Luckily,
Yes.
none of them get hit. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I think they were at a range at that point, but I was expecting maybe at least one of them to get hit because it happened so unexpectedly. I was like, whoa, oh, is someone? Yeah, but nobody did, and they were all fine, which is fine. But I would have liked the action and maybe a little bit of a chase scene to prolong a little bit. Would have been fun.
Yeah. Of course, it gets to Hope Valley, and somebody is panicked, which we will talk about in just a little bit. But on to Mr. Mitchell.
Oh yeah.
Cooper and Toby.
Oh my gosh. Classic Mr. Mitchell. He just walks up, he's like, I know the rules. I'm just here to, take the waters. And then it's like, oh, there are no waters. Yeah.
What happened to the water?
I mean, honestly, I did not think that the Union City Holdings taking the water would specifically mean the hot springs.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe in some way it's connected.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And Mr. Mitchell goes on to tell Lucas and Mike about the hot springs and how the water is basically all dried up and there's only enough for a foot bath.
A footpath, yeah. Those pools, like, they looked pretty deep once they were empty.
Yeah.
They did not look like what they did when they were full.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think a foot bath is happening even there. Just gonna be in like a straight up like 8-foot hole with some water. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Also, Mr. Mitchell works for the governor?
Yeah, I was a little surprised and confused by that. I was kind of like, has he been like scouting this whole time?
I think that's my wait, what moment of this episode.
Yeah, same. When he said that, I was like, okay, that's convenient. Yeah. I was a little surprised, but
is he
I mean
all in on this land water situation?
What confuses me is if he's working for the governor, why would he be surprised about Montague taking the water? Unless Montague and the governor are not working together just yet. I don't think they are. But if Montague is going to try and get the governor on his side, I can't see Mr. Mitchell supporting any kind of activity that's going to take the waters out of the hot springs. No. I just can't see that unless he genuinely cares more about money than the hot springs, which I don't know. The hot springs seem like his main priority to me. So I don't know. Yeah.
Parties, if you have any theories about that, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we're a little confused here.
Yeah. Nathan, Bill, Lee, Rosemary, Elizabeth, and Lucas have a meeting. I think it is at the Valley Voice and Mill. Lee and Rosemary.
Yes.
they are talking about Union City Holdings and how they turned Eagle Creek into a desert, along with buying water rights in Rock Creek. They are also the company who made an order for lumber from the mill for the trestle bridge, but that's not what they actually are. They're aqueducts. We called it.
We called it. We definitely called it. And we also called the fact that that Bill and Lee were going to take responsibility and feel bad for that
Yep.
because they sold them the land and the lumber, and in that scene you see both Lee and Bill express that frustration with themselves. And I mean, water storyline aside, governor aside, Montague aside, I love this scene. I love it.
It's a great scene.
It's the 6 leads apart from Henry because he's not there. But it's the 6 leads all together in a room, and they're all working together to come up with a solution, and it was great. And I know some people they have like they're a little iffy deciding whether they like season 10 or not based off of where their favorite characters are, but for me, I love season 10 because we get scenes like this.
Yeah.
I don't care what's happening with certain characters. I'm just I'm here for scenes like this. This was amazing, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yep. Scenes like this and scenes like the one where they sang the song.
Yes.
For the choir.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely.
And I also have to give credit to my dad because I think my dad called it too.
Yeah.
About the lumber scene.
My dad's been keeping up too, and he has his own ideas and predictions too.
Oh my goodness. Like we just mentioned, they are stealing water from Eagle Creek and Rock Creek and sending it to Union City. And we pretty much already figured this out, but Montague is the head of Union City Holdings.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, not a shocker, but at the same time, I didn't know he was going to be the head of Union City Holdings.
Yeah.
I just thought he was going to be some kind of like foreman for it. Yeah. But no, he's the head. So I think they're in some pretty deep water here.
Yeah. They realized that Union City Holdings' plan to divert the water from Hope Valley too. And Lucas says, this isn't over yet. They don't know that we know. And I've never actually watched this show, but I do know of this line, and it reminded me of the scene in Friends when they are saying, they don't know that we know they know.
That definitely sounds like something that would come from Friends. Yeah. I've never seen the show either, but sometimes here and there you'll hear iconic quotes like that one. Yeah.
I actually think I saw somebody tweet that GIF on Sunday.
I think they did. Yes, I think they did. I remember seeing that. And I mean, it's very fitting because I'm pretty sure some of the cast members like Friends. Like you have pictures with Aaron, Kevin, Ben, and Kayla all going to visit the actual set. So I'm sure there was some influence in there.
Yes. And shout out to Carrie and Morgan if you're listening. The 3 of us have matching shirts with that line on it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Going on to Elizabeth, she had a lot going on in this episode. And I think one of my favorite scenes is when she and little Jack are spending time outside in the park, and they have a brief greeting from Henry, which I thought was cute. And then Allie shows
also foreshadowing.
Yes.
for Henry. Yes.
I agree. Yeah. Allie shows up late to see Jack due to Scout chasing another squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
Yep. And then Nathan shows up as well with little Jack's snack, homemade cookies. And he has a brief conversation with Elizabeth about Allie, which I thought that was a nice moment.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. It was really fun seeing, like Nathan's just got like he doesn't have his surge on. He's just like
Yeah.
very casual and he
Yeah.
comes up with like this little bag of homemade
Yeah.
cookies and he's got one cookie in his mouth and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" It was just like
Yeah.
it was so cute and so
Yeah.
like, just very casual and no like no kind of like intent, like there's a lot of intensity coming up, but this was just like a nice moment where it's just like kind
Yeah.
of, a little bit of the calm before the storm,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yes. Also, baked goods are a theme of this season.
They really are. And not even like for other characters, just for Nathan and Elizabeth specifically. We've got the muffins, the
Yeah.
banana bread,
Bread.
and now the cookies. And I guess apple juice, you could throw that in there.
Yeah.
I guarantee there's going to be another one at some point too.
I wonder what it would be.
I do not know. Maybe pancakes,
Maybe.
like or flapjacks, as Elizabeth calls them. She's pretty good
Yes.
at flapjacks, from what I've heard.
Yes.
Or shepherd's pie.
That's
That
a
might
good
be
one.
fun.
That would be a callback to season 3.
Yes, it would.
And I wonder if she'll put lard in it this time. Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Couldn't resist. Oh my gosh. Rosemary showing up and the conversation with her and Elizabeth. As Elizabeth is staring off at Nathan and Allie and Scout with Jack. It was very cute.
Yes, it was very cute. You have Nathan running around playing tag with all of them. They're all having a great time, and you just see Elizabeth kind of like watching all of this, and she's not like conflicted when she's watching. She's actually like just like she's enjoying watching.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because she's not like torn or anything. She's just like enjoying that moment, totally distracted and oblivious of what Rosemary's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And what was Rosemary talking about again to her in that moment?
Rosemary was talking about their day of wedding planning, and then there was a brief mention of Goldie and how she's sleeping 7 hours now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's another thing that points to Elizabeth not being all in on this wedding planning.
Mm-hmm.
Is that literally Rosemary's talking about a day they set aside for wedding planning, and Elizabeth's just totally distracted.
Yeah. Agreed. Rosemary
Yeah.
definitely picked up on it like right away because she's like,
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
are you okay?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like I said before, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we get to the bottom of that soon. A little bit more. I know we're starting to see possibly a little bit of what's going on there. And this scene might even be an indicator of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. And I think someone needs to start asking the right questions.
Yeah. Even as they're walking, Elizabeth is wondering if it's weird Allie and little Jack have gotten so close. And Rosemary says, because of your history with Nathan. And Elizabeth is basically like, I wouldn't call it that. And then she goes on about how Nathan has apparently given up on love.
Yeah. I mean, he's said it. He's almost like throughout this season, ever since Faith broke up with Nathan, he's kind of embraced that mindset more and more to the point where we even hear him reference it in the beginning of this episode when he tells Elizabeth, and we talked about this earlier, he tells Elizabeth, I don't know what anything about matters of the heart, which sure he does, but he's not, he's very like, he's trying to put that aside and just kind of be in this world where he's closing that part of himself off. And I think Elizabeth is taking note of that and taking it seriously. He told her that in confidence. And then Rosemary kind of just like brushes it off. She's like, oh, he'll find somebody, and like, brings up his track record.
Oh, Rosemary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm just like, Rosemary.
I love Rosemary.
Like Elizabeth, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did she have to
yeah. I mean, yeah. So too soon.
Yeah. Another big part of Elizabeth's storyline this episode revolved around Nathan and the telegram. She is in the mercantile and she overhears Florence and Molly talking about the standoff. And Florence asks Elizabeth if she's seen Nathan. She says no. She goes to look for him in his office. He's not there. She finds the telegram. She reads it, and that's when panic sets in. And then she goes to the livery, and she finds that Newton is gone. This scene.
Whew, this scene was just, I mean, well done by Erin Krakow, yes, because she portrayed like an escalating panic attack so well.
She was
like, I couldn't breathe watching her. Yeah, I couldn't breathe watching her. And you could just see she is so like distraught. She can barely coherently speak when later when Henry comes upon her. She is so like panicked at this moment. It's like we have not seen her like this since. This is even stronger than her panic when she thought Nathan had died in the season 7 finale. Like, that's how strong this is. Yeah. It's about the same, but a little bit stronger. Yeah. And it's very, very intense.
Yeah. I mean, she was hyperventilating. I was like, girl. Like.
Yeah. And let's talk about this a little bit because I know listeners are going to want us to. So let's do this. A lot of people I know are saying, oh, this is about Jack. It's a PTSD episode, yada, yada, yada. I don't think so, folks. I really don't, because you listen to her language in this scene and what she's saying. Again. She says, I can't do this again. The situation she's describing is clearly Nathan. She uses Nathan's name in describing to Henry what's going on. She's not talking about Jack.
No.
She's talking about Nathan here. She's very clearly talking about Nathan. And for Henry, who assumes that, she's engaged to Lucas, there's nothing between her and Nathan, for Henry to walk into this panic attack, this full-on panic attack, and have her explain that the reason she's having a panic attack is because Nathan's life is being threatened. And yeah, again, and she already went through that pain with Jack. Like, she doesn't say Jack's name, but we know that she's referencing going through losing someone as Jack. But for Henry to hear her say that, that's a whole different perspective, you know? I mean, what are your thoughts? Because this is clearly not just her reacting to Jack. Because if this were about her losing the love of her life again, and the love of her life is Lucas, why was Lucas not mentioned in this scene?
Yeah. Of course, I'm not trying to stir up any trouble or conflict with Team Lucas. I like Lucas and Elizabeth together, but based on what we have seen this entire season, just my interpretation, I really do believe she still has feelings for Nathan. And when she says, I can't do this again, something I got out of it is that she knows that losing Nathan by being with Lucas and marrying him is going to hurt worse than the possibility of losing him in the line of duty, like with Jack.
It doesn't matter whether she's with Nathan or not with Nathan. It's going to hurt no matter what. And she's very much not with Nathan right now. Sure, she may be starting to have a few doubts about the wedding that may or may not be related to Nathan. But in this moment, she is very much not with Nathan. But her reaction is so strong. And it just proves that, like, no matter whether she marries Lucas, whether she, stays with Lucas, is engaged to Lucas, it doesn't matter, because if Nathan is in danger or could die, it's still going to hurt just as much.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it just feels like more than just her reacting to it as if it was Jack.
Or
Because
as a friend.
yeah, no. Where she's not reacting to a friend, like, I mean, I get it if the extra layer of him being a Mountie adds to the stress, but in reality, Bill's a Mountie too. And you don't see her freaking out about Bill being, out there. I don't think that this is solely about Jack. I can't see it being just about Jack. Jack, I mean, we love Jack around here. We love Jack, but Jack is already dead. And sure, she might miss Jack, but I don't think that she's come to the peace with the fact that Jack is dead. She visited his grave. That's that. And because of that, I think that this is less about her reliving that and just being about Jack, and much more about her possible feelings for Nathan.
Yeah. And it's clearly not as a friend. Just my opinion. Because you don't react like that about just a friend.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is the first time in this episode we get a few things. We get Elizabeth having a full-on panic attack, which we haven't seen from her pretty much ever. We get her later on, we'll talk about this more, her crying. We haven't seen Elizabeth cry or have a panic attack since Jack's death, basically. We haven't seen that. And I mean, I would like to think she's, somewhat been able to move on a little bit from her grief with Jack, especially since she can visit his grave now and tell him and keep him up to date and everything. I just don't think this is about Jack. I don't think this is about a friend either, because you don't have strong reactions like that for a friend. I'm sorry. You just don't.
No. And just to lighten the mood just a little bit before we go into the emotional stuff again, Nathan and Allie's reunion and hug. That was very
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very sweet. And I loved how in that scene you can see that she's not actually like scared.
oh
Like she's not scared the way Elizabeth is freaking out in this moment. Sure, she doesn't know the whole truth, but and you know, for her, as we saw earlier with Nathan and Allie, they had a scene in the jail together. He was about to leave. He told her, "Oh, I just have to show my badge and stuff." I mean, Bill explains the whole situation of what happened in detail, you know, hostage situation.
yeah.
Allie hears it all, but she's still not panicked because she knows that she can trust her dad. He's safe, he's at home. She was never worrying the whole time because she didn't really know the danger until afterwards. But you can see that, like, they've made this Mountie life work between them
Mm-hmm.
where you know it is possible to be you know related to a Mountie, you know, have a family with a Mountie and not live in constant fear,
Yeah.
because here Allie isn't living in constant fear
Mm,
and she's relieved to have him back, but she's also not like panicked.
yeah.
She's just happy to have him back, like, you know, just another day at the office for them.
Yeah.
So I liked that demonstration, that contrast kind of, you know.
In my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of other parties' opinions as well, this is a parallel to the season 7 hug with Nathan and Elizabeth. And this time Elizabeth sees it.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
she
we
does.
have Henry in the background watching the whole exchange as he is still holding the telegram. I think that telegram is going to come back up.
It definitely could, because that's what triggered the whole thing. Like that's what got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And I really do think I think you're right. I think it definitely could come back for sure.
And Elizabeth briefly goes in the library. She closes the door. You can see the tear rolling down her cheek. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say, look at the plaque, Elizabeth.
I know. I'm like, it's right there in front of you. Look at the plaque.
Even though
Yeah.
for a split second, it does kind of look like she saw it, but we didn't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would have liked her to see it, but she might not be there yet. So I'm okay with her not seeing it yet. Perhaps later on in the season we'll get a parallel to this scene where she does look at the plaque.
Yeah.
But like I said before, this is very, very intense emotion she's feeling.
Yeah.
She's crying physical tears, not just like, you know, overwhelmed, like, oh, you know, like physical tears,
Yeah.
crying. Hasn't done that really since Jack's death.
Yeah.
Um, it's very intense, and she even needs a moment to collect herself. And I think it's very, very important that all of this happened, but Henry witnessed it.
Yes. And can we just talk about that last scene of the episode?
Mm-hmm.
Both of them.
Yes.
Both
Oh
of them.
yeah. Oh yeah. That whole scene, I would say, is one of the best of the season so far. It was very, you know, emotional. There were some very, very like honest questions being asked. Obviously, some questions that aren't ready to be answered just yet, or at least honestly answered.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just a very, very powerful scene. And
Yes.
Henry, of all people, I'm like, yes, this should be
Go,
Henry.
Henry.
I'm very happy. Yes.
Yes. One thing before we move on to the governor, Bixby Balfour, I did find it interesting in the scene with Elizabeth and Henry when she says, I'm fine, Henry. I was just worried about a friend. Henry, you're certain. I'm fine, Henry. You're mistaken. She didn't say she's certain. She said, I'm fine. And when a woman says that, they're not fine.
When she says it twice in a row, you really know it's not true.
She's not
Yeah.
fine at all.
Mm-mm. I think that was a very, very bold, like not bold, but very straightforward question.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are some who can like interpret it of like, are you certain that's what you were feeling? Maybe you were feeling something about Jack, but I really don't think so, because she, when Henry walked into the barn, she knew exactly what he was going to say. She knew exactly what he was going to say. And when he said it, you see her like fold her arms and tighten up and get really defensive. She would not get defensive about feeling grief over Jack, because everyone in the town has grieved Jack. Everyone in the town would understand. Everyone knew Jack. She would feel defensive about having feelings for Nathan when she's 6 weeks away from getting married to Lucas. That is definitely a very big thing. And I think that Henry asking that question, are you certain? It's kind of what she's been asking herself this whole episode, and
Yeah.
probably a few episodes before that as well. So,
Yeah. Things are getting interesting with.
mm-hmm.
This.
And like we keep saying, this is just my interpretation
Yeah,
of it.
and mine too.
I know there are other people with other interpretations, and I could be totally wrong, and
Yeah.
but that's just what I'm seeing right
Yes,
now.
and me too. It is my interpretation as well. But we do both agree that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and we respect that.
Absolutely, yes.
This is not to stir up any trouble or conflict among anyone. It's just what we're seeing based on the season.
Yes, yes. And we always try to keep an open mind about other possibilities as well.
Yes.
This was just our interpretation of this particular scene.
And why don't we just talk about Governor Bixby Balfour?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Brandon's arrival. Yay!
Mark Brandon. We are very, very happy to
Yes.
have Mark Brandon on When Calls the Heart, because he's been on Chesapeake Shores. Has he been on Signed, Sealed, Delivered as well?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yes. He's been in a few other things though, so I think yeah, it's he's a very recognizable face in the Hallmark world, so we're very lucky to have him.
Yes, we are. And he is fantastic. I'm glad that he's part of the cast.
Yes. Yes, me too.
This scene, Rosemary in the cafe with Elizabeth, Florence, Fiona, and Minnie talking about Governor Balfour coming the following day instead of a week earlier.
Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna lie. This scene was overwhelming by how many things Rosemary planned. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Let's just mention a choir performance, his first live speech on the radio, a new bandstand for the choir performance in which they sing an original song about Hope Valley, composed in the governor's honor, and a formal black tie gala with a 7-course meal and dancing under the stars.
Oh my gosh, Rosemary. And I mean, she's got some supportive friends, because I would probably be a little bit annoyed if I were there. So,
of course, we know Mike and May are suggested to write the song. And when Minnie says, you know what it is? New motherhood. We've all been there. And Fiona's like, well.
I loved that. Fiona's like, speak for yourself. No.
Not me.
Yeah. Poor Fiona. She's like
Delivered that.
barely even been in a relationship, much less motherhood. So
The way Kayla
yeah,
delivered that was
that was priceless for sure.
like, well, not me. But I did love the support from everyone. Thought it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Elizabeth lets Lucas know that the governor is coming tomorrow. That was comical too. She's like, the governor, he's coming tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, why? Why did he decide, like, oh, I'm going tomorrow? Like, with like no warning whatsoever. I mean, poor
Yeah.
Hope Valley.
When he says, what aren't you telling me? Why would you ask that? Because you have about 5 different tells. And then she mentions the ball. She's like, there's a black tie ball.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And of course, Lucas knows, oh, yeah, that's going to be in the saloon, probably.
Yep,
Because
the Queen of
all of the
Hearts.
dances are in the saloon. Yeah.
Queen of Hearts, yeah. Jumping to Mike, May, and Fiona at the Queen of Hearts. Fiona lets them know that she's putting them in charge of the music. And I love when Fiona says, there's nothing that can't happen when it's May and Hickam. And then Gustav is in the background, like, c'est impossible.
Is this the first scene with Gustav we've seen all season?
Maybe. I think so.
I think so, yeah.
I was just cracking up. Because then Mike was like, let me go calm Gustav down.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Poor Mike.
Yeah. Going to the mercantile, Fiona finds the necessary equipment for the radio broadcast. And this is when Molly finds out that Fiona knows the governor's coming. She's like, she knows
Yes.
too.
Oh my gosh. So funny. I love how Fiona's like in charge of the technological stuff.
Yeah.
She always is. I mean, she basically is probably the only one who can get
Yes.
the radio up and running.
Yeah.
So
This was a great scene, and it is Lee and Rosemary in their office with Elizabeth and Joseph talking about the governor and the bandstand. Lee's like, oh no, Rosie, what did you do?
Lee already knows. He's just like, oh no. Here we go.
Yeah. And the support I thought was really sweet when she's saying how she feels bad about all the big promises she made. She says, I feel like Lee, a dreamer, Joseph, a believer, Elizabeth, a doer. This line melted my heart into a puddle. Lee,
yes,
you're my Rosie, that's all. And there is nothing you cannot do when you put your mind to it.
Aww, so cute. See, this is, oh man, this is why I love Lee and Rosie. Because no matter how many crazy decisions she makes, Lee will always be there to like help her out of it. Yes. Or through it, as the case may be.
Yes.
And then I love that.
Your daughter believes in you, and so do we.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah. Going to Mike and May again. They are working on the song and bonding over music, which I loved. I thought that was a nice scene. At first, the song is about bumblebees. I did not write the lyrics down, but it was really funny.
It was. And so, like, classic Hickam,
Yeah.
like he's just like, like head in the cloud, just like super happy-go-lucky. So it made total sense for him to write a song about bumblebees. It was just adorable.
Cooper and Toby come in, and they're like,
Yes.
"That's funny." And then May's like, we can't use this.
Yeah. He's like, even if the boys are laughing at it, then we know it's not a good idea.
Yeah. They eventually decide to use a song that Angela and Allie wrote, which I thought was very nice.
Mm-hmm. A nice segue from the camping trip. It was because they both encouraged each other. Oh, you write your poetry, I sing, and now they're kind of combining those two gifts to work together. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah. And that whole scene when, jumping ahead a little bit, Elizabeth and Rosemary come into the cafe and they see the two of them and May singing the song.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was really sweet.
Yes.
And I thought the song fit perfectly. It was great.
Yes. And they changed the lyrics to, I guess, honor Rosemary, which I thought was very sweet.
Yes. And, she did put in all the effort, so.
I just have to mention the sign and his name being spelled wrong. The governor.
Yes.
Bixby, not Buxby.
Oh my gosh. Classic Ned and Florence.
Yeah, and Florence is like, Ned, take this down now.
She's like, take it down. Yeah. That was very funny.
Yeah. Of course, this was before they find out that Balfour will be there in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do find out, everyone is in a panic, especially Rosemary. And Elizabeth comforting Rosemary, that was really nice. She says, "Then it's time to get underwhelmed. Get on top of it, Coulter. You've done a wonderful thing. All right, so it won't be perfect, but that doesn't mean it won't be good."
Yeah. I think I loved this scene because, it's like we've seen Elizabeth give Rosemary some like pep talks in the past, but this one was really fun because she actually calls Rosemary Coulter. She's like, "Get on with it, Coulter." It's like so fun. And you see like how they've, I don't know, it was a really fun, like unexpected thing from Elizabeth, and I really liked that.
Yeah, me too. A little bit later on, Rosemary is in town with Elizabeth still, and I believe this is when they are talking to Lucas and Lee. Rosemary is mentioning Balfour extending his stay, and I did like this quote from her in this scene. She says, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough."
Mm-hmm. That's a good quote.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to make a t-shirt with that.
I'll do it. I'll do it for merch.
Yes. Do it. Yes.
I'll probably have to get licensing, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good quote.
Yeah.
Very applicable.
Yeah. And then Henry, Emily, Timmy, and Opal walk up shortly after that, and they offer to work together to build a small stage for the bandstand. Rosemary, Hope Valley will finally get a stage.
I mean, it's not quite the stage she was hoping for, but I liked that little callback.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we're finally getting the stage. And, hopefully maybe it will lead to an even bigger stage down the road. You never know.
Maybe, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I still want to see that Hope Valley Theater.
Oh, yeah, I think everyone still does. Yeah. Nobody's going to let that go until it happens.
Nope, let's see. How many seasons later? 9? I think
9.
It was first brought up in season
Next year, it'll be officially 10 seasons that everyone's been hoping for a stage at Hope Valley.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think it'll happen at some point.
It better. I'll say that. I need to
It
see it
better.
happen for, yes.
There might be some figurative riots going on.
True. Yes.
That's not happening.
Yes.
But anyway, going back to the governor, he arrives in Hope Valley, and the group, including Allie and Angela, sing the song, and then greetings are exchanged. He meets Lucas, he meets Lee, he meets Rosemary, and then he sees Goldie. And then Rosemary starts bragging about Goldie.
Classic. Yeah. I love how like new parents are always like, oh, my baby, like, and then they start just like bragging about how great their baby is.
Yep.
I mean, I have two young nieces, and that's the way my
Yep.
older sister is. She just like dotes on them and loves talking about them. So it's super cute.
And then Mr. Mitchell pulls the governor away for something. I think to talk to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was going to talk to Montague, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too. But that ends off this jam-packed episode.
There was a lot going on for sure.
Yes.
And I liked the action. It was very good. Yeah.
I think I gave this a 9 out of 10 rating on my.
I was actually a little higher on this. I gave it a 9.5, probably because of the emotion in it.
Yeah.
Because sure, I'm not a fan of party planning or event planning in When Calls the Heart or any Hallmark thing, because for me it's just a little bit boring. But I felt like the raw emotion in this episode is what made it a 9.5 for me. Yes. So definitely really good episode.
Yeah. It was a great episode. And
yes,
a lot more is going to go on next week. How about we
just
that bombshell of a preview.
I mean, I'm very excited to see Lucas kind of step into his own and on a grander stage. I think that's kind of what he's meant to do. And
as Aunt Agatha said,
yeah, and Agatha called it, and I think she's right. I think he is called to a grander stage, and I think it'll be interesting to see that happen. We also have Nathan getting a medal, which is exciting. I'm excited for that. The black tie ball is going to be really fun.
Yes.
I'm excited to see everyone all dressed up and,
all dressed up.
Just all dressed up, yeah. And this whole governor drama, the whole political thing, I thought it was going to be a little bit boring. It's not. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. Yeah. And I think it's very well done because we as the audience can actually understand what's going on this time, as opposed to, like the oil storyline of last year. I think all of us lost track with that. But this year we can understand it. And I love that. So I find it fascinating. And I can't wait for more.
Yeah, same. This line from Rosemary, I was like, wow. How are we supposed to put on a black tie gala pretending that our town isn't facing ruin?
Dun, dun, dun. I mean, I know that Rosemary exaggerates a little bit, but she's not wrong at this point.
No.
And there are a lot of people at that black tie ball who know how dire the situation is. And maybe not everyone knows who's there, but everyone in that, the 6 leads who are in that meeting together talking about it, they know. So they know exactly what's at stake. And so it's basically they're playing 3D chess right now.
Yes.
Definitely playing 3D chess. And they're playing against Montague.
Yep.
And the governor's in between, and they're both trying to get to the governor first. So it's going to get interesting, that's all.
Elizabeth says, what you are doing will destroy Hope Valley. Montague, these valleys are the past. Union City is the future. Actually, that was pretty good. That impression was pretty good.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah. Nice.
Oh my gosh. And then it cuts to Lucas and Elizabeth while dancing. He says, I have an idea. Do you trust me? I have a thought about this. I'll share in 1 second. And then to end the preview for next week, Montague, you have no idea who you've crossed. Dun dun dun.
Oh boy. Yeah. So it's gonna get intense.
I think this is when he tells Elizabeth that he's gonna run for governor because there's a clip of him in the preview going up to the podium.
Yeah, I think either that or he's gonna try
when he exposes.
I think he's gonna try and expose Montague on a live broadcast, and
the governor
doing that,
maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think he's still trying to get the governor on his side.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I have a gut feeling that aspect of it is going to backfire. Now, that also means that he's making people listening to the broadcast aware that they know what Union City Holdings is doing in the surrounding area. So with that knowledge, I think he is going to have a platform to run for governor because he's actually defending the people as opposed to the big industry in this situation. So
I'm excited.
It's gonna get interesting. Yes, I'm very excited.
Great storyline for Lucas.
Yes, I think so too. And I think it's nice to see him get something that's like his own storyline. Yeah. You know, it's been a little while since it's like been purely his, and I really like this for him.
Same.
I think it's a good storyline for him.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, all right, Hearties. I think that wraps up our review of When Calls the Heart, Season 10, Episode 9. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like this video. And if you want to share your thoughts or theories going forward for the rest of the season, feel free to leave them in the comments of this episode. If you want to stay up to date on the rest of our reviews for the season or any of my movie reviews, you can subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next week. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.